She secretly hired two troublemakers, Jamal and Ty, to release rats into Mavis's cookshop, planning to frame her for unsanitary practices. The plan worked. Health inspectors arrived shortly after and closed down Mavis's cookshop, leaving her devastated. Welcome to Wisdom Tales Animation. This story will unfold when trust and love turn to envy and jealousy. The hard work of a thriving restaurant owner is derailed when an unforeseen enemy frames her for cooking rat meat. Rats are found dumped in her freezer, inside her small cookshop, and even in her rented apartment. Authorities are called, and her once successful business is thrown into chaos. Stick around to see how this story unfolds and who the true culprit behind this wicked act is. Don't forget to support this channel by liking the video, sharing, and subscribing. You don't want to miss this one. In a small Jamaican town, sisters Mavis and Cindy Bennett were raised by hardworking parents, Gloria and Sylvester, who taught them the values of loyalty, family, and respect. From an early age, both girls learned the art of cooking from their mother, who often said that a meal made with love could heal any wound. Cindy, the older sister, dreamed of opening her own cookshop and eventually saved enough to make that dream a reality. But she grew up and she put her dreams on hold when she met Julius. Cindy had once lived the life many women dreamed of. She married a wealthy man in a grand ceremony, surrounded by lavish decorations and expensive gifts. The wedding was a fairy tale, filled with promises of eternal love and a future together that seemed unbreakable. Cindy envisioned a life of luxury and comfort, imagining their family growing in the beautiful home they shared. But as often happens, things didn't go according to plan. After just 4 years of marriage, Cindy's world came crashing down when she discovered that her husband had been unfaithful. The betrayal led to a painful divorce, leaving Cindy heartbroken and disillusioned. With nowhere else to go, she returned to her family, her dreams of a perfect life shattered, and she found herself starting over. While Cindy struggled to rebuild her life, her younger sister, Mavis, was finishing up high school and preparing to chase her own dreams. Mavis had always admired Cindy's strength, but her ambition was different. She dreamed of running her own business, but she knew it would take time. She decided to start with a small job to save enough money to eventually open her own restaurant. Cindy, sensing the same ambition in her sister, advised her to wait that she'll venture into town and try her luck. "If things work out, I'll send for you," Cindy promised, her tone filled with the hope of better days ahead. Mavis agreed, eager to make her own way. While Mavis settled in with their parents, she dedicated herself to ensuring that their household ran smoothly, all the while nurturing her own dreams of one day owning a restaurant of her own. 2 years after Cindy had settled in the city, she finally sent for Mavis to come join her. The small cookshop that Cindy had started from scratch had grown into a modest success, and she was thrilled to share it with her sister. Mavis was overjoyed to help Cindy in the shop, excited not only to be a part of her sister's dream, but also to have the opportunity to pursue her own. She took pride in each dish prepared, learning from Cindy's experience and growing her skills. Mavis was determined to save every penny Cindy paid her, with plans to eventually open her own cookshop one day. She told Cindy, "I'll save whatever you can pay me, and after a while I'll branch off on my own. I don't want us competing with each other." Cindy, always supportive, agreed, though she gently advised her sister that there was no rush to move too far away. "Take your time." Cindy said, "Stay here with me for at least 2 years. We'll see how things go." During those 2 years, Mavis worked diligently, building her savings while also building a life with her new husband. She met him during this time, and after 18 months of knowing each other, they decided to get married. Her husband, a humble man who drove a taxi, was eager to help Mavis realize her dreams. Rather than simply saving for her own cookshop, he offered to assist her in building a new shop with the savings he had earned. He proposed that instead of renting, they would use his money to purchase the necessary pots, utensils, and permits to ensure Mavis could have the tools to start her business. Together, they made a plan. They would use his small savings to set up her shop, and in return, he would continue working his taxi business while supporting her every step of the way. Mavis opened her cookshop, which, while still small, was slightly larger than her sister's. She had her own space, But when Cindy suggested they share the area and grow their businesses together, Mavis was touched by her sister's support. The idea of working alongside Cindy in the same area, with each of them focusing on their own vision, felt like a dream come true. Mavis's husband, however, chose to live separately from her while they worked out their plans. He was happy to see his wife's business growing, and to make things easier for Mavis, he rented a small room close to her shop. This way, whenever Mavis finished work late, she wouldn't have to worry about traveling far back home. Her husband would visit her from time to time, ensuring she was always okay, while she worked tirelessly to build her business. They had a clear plan: work hard for a few years, save as much as possible, and eventually open their restaurant and branch into other businesses. It was a simple, yet effective approach that worked for them. As Mavis's shop grew in popularity, the customers poured in. It didn't take long before her cookshop was buzzing with activity every day. She became well known for her delicious meals and warm hospitality. Meanwhile, Cindy, seeing her sister's success, was also gaining a steady stream of customers, and the sisters' businesses were thriving side by side. Their customers were delighted that the two sisters' cookshops were right next to each other, and it seemed like everything was falling into place. Mavis's dreams were slowly coming true, and the bond between her and Cindy only grew stronger with each passing day. They had each other to lean on, and their joint efforts were paying off in ways they hadn't imagined when they first started. Mavis's business grew so much that she quickly outgrew her sister's cookshop. Time and again, Mavis found herself in a position where she had to lend money to Cindy to help her reinvest into her business, as Cindy wasn't selling as much as Mavis. Even though Cindy had a few loyal customers, Mavis's shop had become a local favorite, and it was clear that her business was thriving. Mavis suggested that the two of them re-merge their shops into one big family business, but Cindy politely declined. She explained that now, as a married woman, it was best for her to continue running her own business independently, and she was content with the modest income she made from her loyal customers. Mavis understood and respected her sister's wishes, and so she continued to focus on her growing business. When Mavis gave birth to her son, it felt as though the child belonged more to her older sister, Cindy, than to her. Cindy had always been there for her, offering love and support throughout her life. Mavis deeply appreciated this, and as a result, she would often ask Cindy to babysit when her son was still young. As time passed, when the boy turned 2, Mavis and her husband made the decision to enroll him in daycare, allowing Mavis more time to focus on her work. But even as Mavis and her husband settled into their new routine, they both agreed that it was better for their son to stay with his father during the weekdays, while Mavis focused on her business. After work, Mavis would either come home or visit on weekends to spend time with her family. As the boy grew, he often visited both his mother's and his aunt's cookshop. There was something about Cindy that drew him to her. He would frequently go over to her shop and ask her for food, a gesture that never bothered Mavis. In fact, Mavis would laugh, calling her son Auntie's favorite. It was an inside joke between the sisters, as Mavis knew her son preferred his aunt's cooking over hers, even though the locals considered Mavis the better cook. Cindy had a special bond with her nephew, and Mavis was happy that her son had such a loving aunt, someone who would always look out for him. It brought Mavis peace knowing that she had family outside of just her husband and child. However, as time went on, Cindy started to struggle with feelings she couldn't quite explain. While she appreciated being close to her nephew, there were moments when she would sit by herself, pondering what her life might have been like if she had children of her own. Cindy had always dreamed of having a family, but now, as a divorcee, she was left to watch her younger sister live the life Cindy had always imagined for herself. These thoughts gnawed at her, but Cindy would push them away, trying not to dwell on the feelings of regret and loneliness. It wasn't until one Wednesday afternoon, when Mavis, her husband, and her son walked down the street to visit Cindy, that the simmering jealousy in Cindy finally reached the surface. Mavis's son had just gotten out of school, and Cindy was sitting outside her shop, watching them as they approached. Cindy couldn't help but feel bitter as she watched her sister's family. Look at them, she thought to herself. walking around like they have it all, showing off their perfect little life. They have everything: a happy marriage, a son, and a family. And me? I have nothing. My husband left me for another woman, and I don't have a child of my own. Cindy's emotions began to stir inside her, and the bitterness she had kept buried for so long finally bubbled to the surface, leaving her feeling isolated and resentful. Mavis came up with a special stew she called the Secret Stew, which became a local sensation. Every Thursday she would prepare the stew, and the locals dubbed it the sweetest secret stew. Word spread quickly, and soon customers were asking for it every day of the week. Mavis was forced to make the stew available daily, and it became the highlight of her menu. Her shop quickly became the most popular in the area, outshining all the other local businesses. Her loyal customers couldn't get enough of her secret recipe, and it wasn't long before Mavis was struggling to keep up with demand. Despite her growing success, Mavis remained grounded, focusing on her ultimate goal of opening her own restaurant. She and her husband saved diligently, envisioning a place where customers could sit down and dine in rather than just taking food to go. Life was good, and with every passing day, her dream of owning a full-service restaurant was getting closer and closer to becoming a reality. However, Cindy's business struggled. Besides her sister Mavis's thriving cookshop, another local food seller, Miss Ivy, began attracting more customers, leaving Cindy with barely enough income to cover her rent. Despite the competition, Mavis offered to help her sister a few times, but Cindy always refused, insisting she was managing fine. In reality, Cindy was deeply in debt, drawing only a modest crowd and barely breaking even. Her pride kept her from accepting Mavis's help, but beneath it all was a lingering frustration as she waited for her cookshop to finally flourish. Things took an unexpected turn when Mavis, inspired by Cindy's ambition, opened her second cookshop, hiring extra help to help her. Mavis's cooking style was warm and inventive, blending spices in a way that immediately won over the townspeople. Her secret stew became an instant favorite, drawing a loyal clientele who adored both her food and her friendly nature. As Mavis's business thrived, Cindy found herself consumed by jealousy. Instead of celebrating her sister's success, she let resentment build. Cindy's bitterness grew as she watched her sister's cookshop grow in popularity, while hers remained in the background. Driven by envy, Cindy began to plant seeds of doubt in the mind of Mavis's young son, Junior. She subtly tried to turn him against his mother, telling him that Mavis cared more about her shop than her family. "Your mother only cares about her business," Cindy would say whenever she had the chance, hoping to instill resentment in him. Over time, Junior's behavior shifted, and he began to rebel against Mavis, questioning her love and loyalty. Mavis, deeply troubled, couldn't understand the sudden change in her son's attitude and never suspected that Cindy was the one behind it. Cindy's jealousy ran so deep that she was willing to tear apart her sister's family just to feel a sense of victory. As Cindy's resentment intensified, she devised a more sinister plan to sabotage Mavis's business. She secretly hired two troublemakers, Jamal and Ty, to release rats into Mavis's cookshop, planning to frame her for unsanitary practices. The plan worked. Health inspectors arrived shortly after and closed down Mavis's cookshop, leaving her devastated. But Cindy didn't stop there. She even broke into Mavis's home and stashed bags of frozen rat meat in her freezer to further tarnish her sister's reputation. As rumors spread, Cindy pretended to be horrified, whispering that Mavis had always been too ambitious for her own good and wasn't to be trusted. You ungrateful fool. Let's see. Now that she's gone, let's see how she's going to be boastful and brag about having the nicest food in the area. Let's see how she'll take all my customers. I'm the one who brought her to this city, and she dares come here and make a fool of me. I'm struggling, drowning in debt, while she, her husband, and her son are flourishing. And then she has the audacity to ask to lend me money, give me a loan, or merge our businesses together as if she's mocking me. How dare her? How dare she think that I'll take her charity or her handouts? This is my vision. I'm the one who always wanted to be a chef. I'm the one who always wanted to be a restaurant owner. How dare she come here, steal my business, and then pretend like we're family, that we're sisters? Let's see now how she'll get out of this trouble. Let's see if she can open her restaurant after spending all her money to get lawyers and deal with all the people coming at her for feeding them rats. And as for Miss Ivy, I'll deal with her in my own time, Cindy said, her voice dripping with venom as she plotted her next move. Cindy's scheming had unintended consequences, however. Another cookshop owner nearby, Miss Ivy, who had recently had a minor disagreement with Mavis, found herself accused of setting up Mavis's shop. Cindy eagerly led the charge against Miss Ivy, rallying others to believe that Miss Ivy had acted out of spite. She gathered people, convincing them that Miss Ivy was responsible, even calling for her shop to be burned down. Terrified and desperate to clear her name, Miss Ivy pleaded her innocence, insisting she would never endanger her customers over an argument. Despite her protests, no one believed her until a group of young people intervened, standing up for Miss Ivy. Miss Ivy has always been kind to us. She would never do something so wicked, they argued, and the mob slowly dispersed. Miss Ivy's shop was spared, but her reputation was damaged, all because of Cindy's relentless accusations. Meanwhile, Cindy's plan began to unravel when Miss Carroll, a longtime customer, overheard Cindy discussing payments to Jamal and Ty. Disturbed by what she heard, Miss Carroll reported it to the authorities, who brought the two troublemakers in for questioning. Under pressure, Jamal and Ty confessed everything, including Cindy's involvement in framing her own sister. Shocked by the revelation, the townspeople were appalled. Mavis was released, and the community struggled to come to terms with Cindy's betrayal. Many felt disgusted that Cindy could go to such lengths to ruin her own sister's life, and the trust that some had placed in Cindy was forever shattered. Upon Cindy's arrest, Mavis decided to confront her sister in jail. Standing across from Cindy, Mavis looked her in the eyes, searching for some trace of the sister she had once adored. "Why, Cindy?" Mavis asked, her voice trembling with hurt and confusion. "You were my sister, my friend. How could you do this to me?" Cindy looked away, a bitter sneer on her face, muttering something about being ignored and overlooked. "You don't understand, Mavis. You've always had it easy." "I was just tired of everyone loving you and forgetting about me," Cindy replied coldly. Mavis shook her head, tears brimming in her eyes. "You let your jealousy poison everything, even my family. You turned my own son against me. Was it all worth it, Cindy?" But Cindy remained silent, her stubborn pride and bitterness preventing her from showing even a shred of remorse. "You took everything that was meant for me." Cindy's voice cracked with a mix of anger and despair. "You have the husband, the child, the happy family, the business that was my dream, my vision. You ended up with 2 businesses while I struggled. I couldn't take it anymore. And I did what I did because I'm the one who brought you here. I'm the one who helped you get started. But you were succeeding while I was struggling. While you were at home laughing with your son and husband, I was alone. My husband left me for another woman after 4 years of marriage. He divorced me and left me with nothing. I had to start from scratch, returning to our parents' home before I could even think of building a life again. I thought that you being here, being alone, you would help me. I didn't expect you to actually surpass me." Mavis shook her head, her voice trembling with hurt and disbelief. "Oh no, Cindy, so this is why you did this to me, to us? Our sisterhood? I looked up to you. I've helped you many times, even offered to merge our businesses together, and you blatantly refused. What else did you want from me? What else? How could you ruin everything I've worked so hard for, and in the process destroy yourself? You are a disappointment, Cindy. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry I ever called you my sister or looked up to you as a role model." The weight of Mavis's words hung heavy in the air, leaving Cindy to confront the consequences of her bitterness and envy. Their parents, Gloria and Sylvester, were devastated by the news. Heartbroken, they visited Cindy in jail, struggling to understand how their own daughter could have turned against her family. Gloria's voice shook as she looked at Cindy through the bars, her face lined with sorrow. "We raised you to love and support each other, Cindy. How did you let this happen? How could you betray your own sister like this?" Sylvester, his voice filled with disappointment, added, "We gave you everything we could. We taught you love, respect, family, but you threw it all away." Cindy sat in silence, feeling the weight of their disappointment and the knowledge that she had lost not only her freedom, but her family's trust. For the first time, Cindy felt truly alone. After Cindy was sentenced to jail and fined heavily, the community turned against her. Those who once bought her food felt betrayed and disgusted, wondering aloud if Cindy's own food had ever been clean. Rumors spread about her deceit, and her name became synonymous with dishonor. Cindy's actions had destroyed her reputation, and even those who had once been her friends now shunned her, unable to forgive her cruelty toward her own sister. Meanwhile, Mavis returned to her cookshop. After the health inspector's visit, Mavis was handed a detailed list of violations that needed immediate attention. She had to dispose of old and unsafe utensils, replace her refrigerator and invest in a deep freezer, and ensure all her kitchen tools, both in her shop and at home, met the required standards. It was a daunting process, but she tackled it head-on, determined to rebuild. With her husband's unwavering support, Mavis made every necessary change, even dipping into their savings to cover the costs. After weeks of hard work, the health inspectors returned, thoroughly examined her premises, and, satisfied with the improvements, reissued her license. Mavis finally reopened her cookshop, and customers eagerly returned, proving their loyalty and trust in her craft. Her husband remained her pillar of strength, encouraging her every step of the way. Meanwhile, her son, free from Cindy's negative influence, became more respectful and focused, showing signs of maturity that made Mavis proud. Even Miss Ivy, once her fiercest competitor, extended an olive branch. Over time, the two women settled their differences and formed a friendly camaraderie, determined to rebuild what Cindy had torn down. Her loyal customers rallied around her, donating fresh ingredients and spreading the word of her innocence. Each pot of her dish of secret stew became a symbol of resilience, cooked with the love and support she received from the community. Her cookshop not only recovered but flourished, expanding to new locations and becoming a gathering spot where people celebrated kindness, love, and forgiveness. Over time, Mavis became a symbol of strength in the town. She openly shared her story, emphasizing the importance of family and the dangers of letting envy go unchecked. Her cookshop became more than a business. It was a place of warmth, unity, and healing. Though her heart bore the scars of Cindy's betrayal, Mavis rose above it, choosing to fill her life with gratitude for the journey, the lessons learned, and the love of her community. As she stirred a pot of her dish of secrets one afternoon, Mavis felt at peace, knowing she had not only survived but thrived despite her sister's betrayal. Her life, once threatened by Cindy's jealousy, had blossomed into something rich and fulfilling. And though she would never forget the pain her sister caused, Mavis chose to let love and forgiveness be her guiding force, leaving Cindy to bear the heavy weight of her own choices. The lesson in Cindy's story highlights the importance of being content with what you have and being open to accepting help when it's offered. Harboring resentment, envy, or pride can blind us to the genuine support that those who care for us offer. If Cindy had accepted Mavis's assistance and appreciated her own modest success, her journey might have been less painful. Instead, her bitterness drove her to sabotage the very person who loved her the most, ultimately leading to her downfall. Cindy's envy stemmed from a deep-seated fear of being surpassed by the very sister she helped get into the business. She was proud when Mavis depended on her, but as Mavis's success grew beyond Cindy's, Cindy began to view her as a rival rather than a loved one. Sometimes in life, the people who offer us support may do so only as long as we remain beneath them. The moment we surpass their achievements, they may start to see us as a threat, and what once was support can turn into resentment. Cindy's failure to celebrate her sister's accomplishments and accept her own limits ultimately turned her love into jealousy, showing us the dangers of holding on to pride and fear of being outshined. If you've enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and turn on post notifications so you never miss another powerful tale.